I had a lady that said, man, you did your Botox in about 30 seconds and you charged me a few $100. And, she's like, that's a lot of money for such a quick procedure. And I told her a story, which was this woman saw Pablo Picasso, and she told Pablo Picasso, asked him, would you be able to draw a picture of me? So he took a cocktail napkin, scribbled a little sheet of paper, drew a picture of her in about 30 seconds, and then gave her back the cocktail napkin and said, ma'am, that'll be $5,000. And she said, Mr. Picasso, that only took you 30 seconds. And he said, no, it took me a lifetime. And I thought that was interesting because it has taken me, I've been in practice almost 20 years now, and it's taken me a long time to develop my techniques, where a lot of things I'm focused on with, for example, just using Botox, the example that the lady had mentioned to me, is that, it's taken me years to make this almost absolutely painless, where you can't feel the needles go in through my finger technique, nothing to do with even topicals. The results where you get a very durable result that looks so much better. People have been so many other places for Botox, for example, and they think, oh, it's just Botox. I mean, it goes away in a few months and no big deal. But it doesn't. If it's done well, the what happens after a few rounds is it looks so good. It is something that it gets so good that over time you don't need very much. I had another gentleman that did some Botox with me a few years ago, had a really good result, and then he said, how many units did you use? And I really, honestly, I don't charge per unit. I just charge for results. That's why I give a little touch-up, no charge. I went back and really sort of evaluated, how many units I used for him, and I remember it being around 55 units. And he said, 55 units? I got 100 units by the other doctor, and he charged me $200 less than you did. So I said, well, to be honest with you, I mean, whose result did you like better? He said, well, I liked yours better. And then he said, then I asked him, which one lasted longer? He said, well, yours lasted longer. So mine lasted longer with half the units than the other doctor. And he says, why is that? I said, I placed it in the right depth, in the right location, the right distribution. So therefore it looks better, it lasts longer. You don't need a huge number of units. You don't need a bucket of units placed in the scalp. You need it done well so it lasts and looks natural. And he says, well, I don't understand this. It's just Botox, for God's sake. And he was a violinist, and I remember telling him, listen, you're just a violinist. To me, violins all sound the same. It's, who's the first violin, second violin, you're just throwing your hand across the string. It's the same thing. Well, obviously, I did not mean that, but it was an example to have him understand that I'm sure it took him decades to perfect his technique at being a good violinist. It has taken me a long time to perfect something as trivial sounding as Botox. So when someone says, hey, you made a lot of money in a very short time, minus all my overhead and everything else I've got to cover every month, and minus all the education until I was 34 years of age, straight from kindergarten, having to graduate top of my class all the way across to get to the level that I am right now. And that's the big difference is when you come to see me and try me, just using Botox as an example, we're not even talking about a facelift rhinoplasty, just telling you something as simple as Botox, I get a much better result. And it's not just about a short-term effect. I'm going to shoot a podcast coming up on compounded interest about Botox, and I'll go more into detail about that concept. But it really is an investment. And that's the thing that people don't understand. And that whole 30 seconds, boom, you took care of me, and, why are you charging me so much? I charge an appropriate amount for what I give you. I don't overcharge you. I charge you what I believe is going to be an incredible, real benefit. I mean, people have done 5-10 years of Botox, and they're just getting no results on it. And then within 2 to 3 rounds, it looks better than someone's 5 to 10 years of work. So there's so much value. I think value is probably the best word I can give you for this.